Yo, what's going on YouTube, and welcome back to Goal Line Hockey. It's your boy Kevin Forte, and today we are back as we have to give a congratulations and we have to give kind of an I'm sorry in typical Canadian fashion. That is going to be going to the Nashville Predators, but today we're going to recap the series between the Vancouver Canucks and the Nashville Predators. One of the more exciting series, in my opinion. I think for Predators fans, they're going to be, trying to keep themselves from going over the cliff with how this thing went. It reminds me a lot of the series between the Islanders and the Hurricanes this year, and we're going to discuss all of that today. We're going to recap the series. We're going to go over what's next for each of these teams, of course, one being eliminated, and what their future plans could look like going into this summer. And of course, for the other, we'll discuss what's next and awaiting them in round two as they were sitting on the couch watching this game, probably eating some gummy worms, maybe some popcorn, watching this game to see who they would play in the second round. So we're going to go over all that today. So we're going to start off with the team that won, and we're going to go over the Vancouver Canucks. Really, what was interesting in this series for me is if you told me before the series that Thatcher Demko wouldn't end the series, would be done after game one, okay? So Thatcher Demko would play one game in this series. Elias Pettersson would basically be held off the score sheet. Like, he really didn't produce that much. And the same for JT Miller. And the Canucks still won the series, I would laugh at you. Because I'm thinking to myself, there's no way that the Canucks would have won this series with those guys not contributing. Or at least not to the level that they should have. And if you also told me that Quinn Hughes was playing 14 to 19 minutes, less than 20 minutes a night in the final couple games of the series, and maybe laboring an injury or whatever the case may be, I'd laugh at you. There's no way they get past even the Predators in this series. No way. They proved me wrong. So we're going to start off with game one. I think that's a good place to start, right? So game one of this series went pretty much the way that I think we all sort of expected, but in a roundabout way. So the Vancouver Canucks won game one 4-2. Overall, it was a good game for both teams. I think for the Predators, they kind of feel like they let that game get away from them because they were in this game. They were up 2-1 at one point in this game, and the Canucks came back and won this game. And you're going to find here, spoiler alert, there's a theme of the Predators letting games get away from them. We'll go over that. So that's game one. Game two, the Predators kind of fought back. They said, you thought this was going to be a quick and easy series. We're going to come back and give it our all in game two. A really good game for the Predators in that one. And what was interesting about game two was, in the first 5 minutes of this game, basically, we were thinking, Thatcher Demko doesn't start the game. Casey DeSmith comes in, and I think the first shot on net, Anthony Beauvillier, I think he deflected the puck, and the puck goes right past Casey DeSmith, and we're all sitting here saying, oh, shit. That's it for the Canucks. There's no way they win this series. Thatcher Demko's hurt. They give up a really leaky goal. The first shot, it's like, oh, you could see the momentum shift in this series. So a 4-1 win for the Predators, and we're kind of asking ourselves after game two, is the goaltending going to be a problem here for the Vancouver Canucks moving forward? And then we get to game three, where this game was the beginning of the games where Nashville was kind of playing their game. Nashville in this series was not going to be the team scoring 5 or 6 goals a game, other than game two where they did score 4, but that was the most they would score in any game the rest of the way. They just didn't seem to get it done. It was a close game. It was 2-0 most of the way for the Canucks. And what was a really pivotal point in this series, I think, was game three. Game three, 2-0 Vancouver. And there was 2 penalties late in the third period against the Canucks. It was a 5-on-3 for the Predators. And they do that typical... I always think of when they do the power play song for the Predators, I always think of the little girl from Finding Nemo, because they played that same song during Finding Nemo. You guys hopefully you know what I'm talking about. But either way, unfortunately for the Canucks, fortunately for the Canucks, they killed both penalties. But unfortunately for the Predators, they were unable to score on that 5-on-3. Now, they did score 1 goal. I don't remember if that was a power play goal, but they did score during that final 5-minute sequence. They just weren't able to score the next goal to tie the game. And ultimately, they lose game 3, which now it's a 2-1 series for Vancouver. I think that was a really pivotal point for the Canucks in this series. And, for all the things I could say about the Canucks defense going into the year, their defensive lineup, even today, looking at that lineup, you're like, I don't know if that defense is really capable of going on a playoff run. They kind of looked like it, especially on that 5-on-3 in a really pivotal game in a tough environment. They're throwing the catfish on the ice. Things could have very easily gone wrong for the Canucks in Game 3, but they didn't. Then we get to Game 4. So Game 4, whoops, wrong one. So we get to Game 4 now. Game 4, a 4-3 win for the Predators in overtime. Now, the way they got to this finish was nothing short of incredible. Late in the third period, it is a 3-1 lead for the Nashville Predators. And the Canucks pull their goaltender. Rick Tocchet goes over, pulls out Casey DeSmith. They score one. Brock Besser, his second of the game. So in the first 2 minutes of the game and the final 2 minutes of the game, Besser gets a goal in the beginning and the end to make it 3-2. Then the Canucks get another one. They pull the empty netter. They pull out Casey DeSmith. Colin Sissons hits the post. The far side post, the puck goes straight across the net, hits the outer post, back the other way, and then they score. With less than 10 seconds left, and who scored the goal? Was it Pettersson, Miller, Lindholm? No, it's Brock Besser. Brock Besser scores 2 goals in the final 2 minutes of this game, and if you remember, he also scored the first goal to make it a hat trick, a 3-3 game, now going to overtime. All the momentum is in Vancouver's favor. Nashville deflated. And then we get to overtime, and I missed it because I was flipping between the Bruins-Leafs game. And of course I missed it, and I see the highlight. Elias Lindholm puts home the game winner. So everybody that was saying that was a bad trade and this and that was a pivotal moment also in this series. This series was won for the Vancouver Canucks in games 3 and 4 for different reasons. Their defense in Game 3, their offense coming back clutch in Game 4, they take a 3-1 series heading back to Vancouver. And at this point, you're kind of thinking, even if this somehow does go to a Game 7, you kind of get the feeling there's no way Nashville's going to win 3 in a row. And then we get to Game 6, or Game 5. Game 5, good fight by Nashville. They fight back. They win Game 5, a respectable 2-1 win over the Canucks on the road with their backs against the wall. Respectable win. But then, unfortunately, we get to Game 6, and I think the goal was scored, 3 minutes left in regulation, or even less than that. Less than 3 minutes left in regulation. It's a goalie duel between UC Saros and Artur Silovs, right? Because during this series, not only did we see Thatcher Demko go down in Game 1, after Game 3, going into Game 4, we find out Artur Silovs is coming in, and you're thinking, oh, this is not good. This is not good. And boom, Artur Silovs now has 3 wins. Or 2 wins. 2 wins in this series. He won 2 of his 3 starts for the Vancouver Canucks and a 1-0 shutout, outdueling UC Saros in this series. That was incredible by the Vancouver Canucks there. So to recap, so looking at each team individually, that's the recap of the series. It was a 1-0 goal. Of course, again, who got the game-winning, the clutch goal in this series? No, it wasn't Elias Pettersson. No, it wasn't JT Miller. It wasn't even Brock Besser or Elias Lindholm. It was Pia Suter with the game-clinching series. The series-clinching goal for the Vancouver Canucks to send them to the second round to take on a crosstown rival in Western Canada, the Edmonton Oilers. We're going to get to that next. So that is, of course, like I said, taking us to the next series, which will, I think for the Canucks, a lot of really good things to look at in this series. Like I said in the beginning of the video, if you told me that those core guys didn't score, Demko wasn't in the lineup, there's no way they win this series. But they did. And Artur Silovs is becoming, dare I say, the Matt Murray of, what year was that? 2016, 2017, right? They won the back-to-back cups. I think it was 2016 and 2017, if I remember correctly. You guys can let me know down below. Those back-to-back cups for Pittsburgh. Matt Murray won the Stanley Cup. Could we see something like that for Artur Silovs? It's still a long way to go before we get there, baby. But I do have to say, this next series against Edmonton is for real. And not to discredit Nashville here, but this is going to be a different matchup for them. This is going to be a really good test for where the Vancouver Canucks stand. Everyone's giving Edmonton as the favorite here, but I do think that Vancouver, listen, in any rivalry game or series, everything's up in the air. And I think we could see something like that in this series. So looking ahead for the Nashville Predators, really disappointing end. Nobody really expected them to get this far, so it's kind of hard to sorry guys. Yeah, nobody expected them to get this far to begin with. So Andrew Burnett kind of said that, you would have liked to have seen the core guys scoring a little more, being more productive, right? Ryan O'Reilly. I mean, even the depth guys, Colton Sissons, right? He pots in that empty netter. This is all, who knows? This could be a totally different series if Vancouver doesn't tie the game there in Game 4. What else? Trying to remember the other player on Vancouver that was Nashville that was really good. That's really going to bother me. But they just re-signed him before the trade deadline, and there was consideration that they were going to trade him. Good thing they didn't. Tommy Novak, thank you. Novak, you guys are probably screaming, Tommy Novak. Tommy Novak. Of course, Ryan O'Reilly, Roman Josi, those guys, you would have liked to have seen more production from them. Philip Forsberg as well. He did score in this series, but again, you would have liked to have seen a little more. The spotlight seemed to be a little bit too much for some of the younger guys like Luke Evangelista as well, but those guys are still coming into their own, and it was good to see them getting that playoff experience. But I will say, the concerns, UC Saros for the first couple games of this series, yeah, he played really well when it mattered in games 5 and 6, but it was almost too little too late. I think UC Saros got out, he did. He got out-dueled by Artur Silovs and Casey DeSmith in this series. And if you told me he got out-dueled by Thatcher Demko from the beginning of this series to the end, I understand that. But there were a couple games and a couple pivotal goals he gave up that just were like, oh, that one hurts. Just really bad momentum shifts for the Nashville Predators. And Nashville doesn't have the goal scoring, and we saw that in this series. They don't have the goal scoring right now to afford that type of, hate to say collapse in between the pipes, but that's sort of what it was. And I love UC Saros. Juice is one of my favorite goalies in the league. He's got one of the best names in the league. But I hate to say it, he kind of let down the Predators as this series went along. And like I said, there was promising moments toward the end of this series, but fortunately I just think it was too little too late. So we'll be doing an entire video on the Predators and the Canucks series with the Edmonton Oilers later this afternoon, so stay tuned for that later today. But that's going to do it for today's video. Like I said, it was one of the more exciting series just with the teams coming back and fighting and, reversing the score. It looked like they were going to win. Then they end up winning the game in a comeback fashion. There was a lot of that. It was definitely a, both of these teams, I'm sure their cardiac is going to be a little bit needing a rest here. But, the Canucks don't have much time. Their turnover is pretty quick as they're going to be playing the Oilers, I think, as soon as Monday or Tuesday. The schedule hasn't come out yet, but we'll be going over that later. Guys, that's going to do it for today. If you would like to check out our merch shop, we just dropped the summer merch line. So if you're interested in any of that, we also have some stuff here like hats, beanies, mugs, t-shirts, sweatshirts, sweaters, all that stuff. All the links to that are in the description down below. Guys, as always, thank you so much for watching this video, and I will see you again next time. Peace out, guys.